boy. Let's get it!
Down the 30, watching ESPN, yeah, it's game time. Shot like Curry.
Wing outside. Got it!
50K on AD and the Lakers made some paper. Every day I'm training, going hard. I'm trying to be the greatest. Feel the king, I'm feeling like LeBron. They know what I'm doing. We gon' drop 150 on them guys. We got too many hoopers.
Triple-double. He's got a triple-double. That is the 8th of his career. A win for Golden State on the road on opening night.
Oh, you know it must be game day because we are suited and booted. Jay Williams, top of the morning to you, sir.
Top of the morning to you guys.
With us. Always good to have you. Stephen A. Smith, how we feeling?
I'm good.
Big night at the Garden tonight?
No doubt about it. The Garden tonight, NBA Countdown in the house, MSG. We here.
What's your chance?
That's what I'm saying. We here. We here. Let's do this. All
right, I'm Molly Karen Rose. We had some games last night. Let's do this. We had a potential Western Conference Finals preview at Staples Center. It was really the big two. LeBron and Anthony Davis both balled 30-plus points, 11 boards, but then Steph Curry and the Warriors took over in the fourth. Curry with his first triple-double since 2016 as the Dubs took down the purple and gold on their home floor. Still without Klay Thompson, 121-114. Russell Westbrook still trying to fit in with his new squad, a work in progress. He had 8, 5, and 4 with 4 turnovers. He's used to averaging a triple-double. Here's King James on that subject.
I just think it was just first game jitters. Put too much into it. Just probably was a lot just going through his mind, just being a kid from LA, watching the Lakers growing up, and then however many years down the road, now you're putting on a Laker uniform and you're stepping into the Staples Center. You're probably, I can only imagine how many friends and family have contacted him over the last 48 hours, wondering if they could come and see his first game as a Laker. So those things, those demands and those asks and those things will wind down as the season go on and on. So not worried about Russ at all. Just need to be himself.
Okay, the audio not the best there. But clearly he sounds a little defeated. I mean, they were defeated. Jay, I want to start with you. Mm-hmm. Are you worried about Russ?
No.
And this Lakers team, this chemistry?
No. Russell Westbrook last night with him on the floor, they were minus 23 in 35 minutes. With him off the floor, they were plus 16 in those 14 minutes. So, look, I know those stats will be very revealing for people in that first game, watching Steph Curry not play well and they still win. But this is going to take time. I'm not going to be one of these people that goes on national TV and has a knee-jerk reaction and says, oh, now they're going to have issues. The question that's going to loom around Russell Westbrook, LeBron James said it, he has to be Russ. But he can't be the Russ he was before. He has to be the Russ that is willing to take on a different role with this team and play, understanding that when AD is a top 5 player, AD will be that player. LeBron James will be that player. So for Russ, how do you do more back cuts? How do you play with more energy? Pick your positions, pick your times, your spots a little bit more. Russ can still be very effective on this team. His role is just going to have to slightly change than what it's been his entire time in the league.
Well,
are you going to have one of those knee-jerk reactions, Stephen A?
Relax. Here I come. Jay Williams knows his basketball. I'm not about to question that, but I know mine. And I'm going to tell you something right now. There's a reason to be concerned, even after one game, because it's not about the numbers. Forget the numbers for a second here. Yes, you were minus 23 with him on the floor. There's no doubt about that. We get all of that. That could be an aberration. Rush could have a great game, and still that might be the case in some instances because of the way he plays. I'm talking style of play. I'm talking about what you got to look at. I've been saying for years, even though he's a walking triple-double, what's the problem with Russ? It's not his character. It's not selfishness. It's not some of these things that people try to tear him down about. No, that's not the issue with Russell Westbrook. The issue with Russell Westbrook is that he can't shoot. That's the issue. And last time I checked, that hasn't changed. One year after another, he's not a shooter. He can make jump shots here and there, but is he a reliable perimeter shooter? The answer is no. And where's that going to get the Los Angeles Lakers? Jay Williams, you know basketball. That's what this comes down to. We're talking basketball here. If you got Russell Westbrook and he can't shoot the basketball from the perimeter, you can't put him at the 2. If you keep him at the 1, you can't bring Rondo in the game. If you're not going to have Rondo in the game, you're not going to have elite point guard play in the game, which ultimately means that LeBron James at some point in time is going to have to go back to what we've always known him to be, essentially the point guard / point forward, the cerebral mind of your offense, and you're going to have to do that in order for this team to be successful. Remember, when Russell Westbrook was on the court with Rondo, they were on the court together for about 7 minutes, and they were like a minus 15 in 7 minutes. Why? Because you have no perimeter threat. And you got to take into consideration who you're going up against. You're going up against a Golden State Warriors team last night. Let's put this stuff in perspective, please. This not only was not a Klay Thompson, because we all know what that brother, that future Hall of Famer brings to the table, one of the top 5 shooters in the history of the game. James Wiseman is no scrub. He wasn't in the lineup. He was out yesterday. You had Looney back up in there. Kuminga, he was not in the lineup as well. You went and Steph Curry had a bad game. By the way, despite all of that, you still lose this game to the Golden State Warriors. They still beat you. Steph had a bad game. He called his own game trash. Even though I don't call a triple-double trash. Yeah. But he called his own game trash. And then you take into consideration the fact that you got Anthony Davis with undersized dudes on him shooting fall-away jump shots. That's not going to cut it.
Are you a DEFCON 5? DEFCON 10?
No.
Where are you?
No.
Where are you in the worries about the Lakers?
No. What I'm saying to you is this. You have to play differently in order for this team to be successful.
Yes.
Now that brings us to Frank Vogel. Is he the man that can make those adjustments?
Well, that's going to be the question.
Well, see, there we go.
That's the question.
But that's where I was going to Jay, because I know Jay knows his basketball. You see what I'm saying? I'm saying it's the domino effect. One issue creates another with the Los Angeles Lakers. That last night was what I consider to be the Western Conference Finals matchup. And I'm here to tell you something right now. I got the Lakers as my favorite coming out of the West.
Yeah.
They can't beat the Warriors playing like that. They're going to have to play differently. And we're going to have to see them play differently in order to do it.
11 new players on this team.
Sure.
Chemistry takes some minutes to actually come together. You talk about Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel is a defensive-minded coach.
That's right.
Which this team is actually going to have to get better defensively.
That's right.
We saw Carmelo Anthony get isolated multiple times last night down the stretch. That's going to be a question for them.
Yep.
Offensively, though, I'm trusting LeBron James to figure it out.
So
when LeBron James got to Miami, they were 9-8 that first year. People were ready to fire Eric Spoelstra. They figured it out. They got to NBA championship. When he came to Cleveland, they were 500 around January. They figured it out. They got to NBA championship. Look, Russ is going to have to play with the ball in his hands a lot of times. LeBron may have to shoot more threes this year and demand the ball.
That ain't going to work.
Or demand the ball differently throughout the system in order to allow him. And look, Tim Legler said this, and I'm actually starting to trend in this direction a little bit. Russ may have to come off the bench some games, too. Because Russ in his second unit
I'm glad you
could energize the second unit in a different way.
There.
He just has to accept that, Steve.
I'm glad you went there. Let me say this.
Yeah.
I'm not jumping off the Laker bandwagon after one game. We analyze it. Remember, I'm a soap opera guy. You understand what I'm saying? You know that the stars, you know what? Listen, Sonny Corinthos on General Hospital.
What aren't
Victor
you?
Newman on Young and the Restless. It doesn't matter whether they get shot, stabbed, fall down the stairs, or whatever.
So much drama.
I'm helping y'all out here. The point is this. It doesn't matter what happens to them. They're going to live, okay? Those stars are going to live. So we understand that. But it doesn't mean that you don't tell a story. And while the story is percolating, you got to tell it. And when you're paying attention to the Los Angeles Lakers right now, be very, very clear about what you just said. Russell Westbrook coming off the bench. Do you understand that this might be the greatest challenge of LeBron James' career?
Yes.
Because we understand. See, Kyrie could shoot.
Yeah.
What you're doing with Russell Westbrook, Kyrie could come off the ball. He might not have wanted to. He might have wanted the ball in his hands. He might have resented the fact that LeBron James had the ball in his hands and was running the offense and stuff like that. But you didn't ask Kyrie to do something he was incapable of doing. In the case of Russell Westbrook, what's going to happen now is, okay, you're not a shooter. You need the ball in your hands. So when you don't have the ball in the hands, what purpose are you serving? And if that question isn't answered in a positive fashion, then you're talking about him coming off the bench. Now, I ask you, Jay Williams, again, you cover the NBA. You know your basketball. You really, really think you could ask Russell Westbrook to come off the bench?
I think you have to make it his idea. I have to give him
I'm all in.
You have to do a series of ebbs and flows and say, hey, look, I want to get momentum going for you. When I'm on the court, just because you start a game this way doesn't mean you finish games this way now, right? So my thing is, when I'm on the court, I'm going to be ball dominant. When you're on the court, I want you to find your rhythm very quickly. And then when we're on the court together, you and I have to play differently. When I have the ball, I have to move more without the ball. When you have the ball, you have to move more. Like, you have to change it up that way. It's going to be hard. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but you can't have two ball dominant people on the floor at the same time.
Jay touches me with this because it's so cute what he's saying. It truly, truly is. I would remind you, Jay Williams. I'm not being dismissive.
The word cute, come on.
Listen, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Allen Iverson's my brother. You know that. They tried to ask him to come off the bench. How'd that work out? Throughout history, when you ask a star, like, everybody ain't Vince Carter now. Everybody's not somebody. Listen, some guys, it takes a rare guy because Russell Westbrook has been starting
Let me ask you a question.
Finishing games throughout his entire career.
How many championships has LeBron James won?
4.
How many championships has Russell Westbrook won?
0.
So Russell Westbrook is trying to win a championship.
Yes.
If you're at that later stage of your career, even though you still are in the Mr. Triple-Double last year,
that's right.
You have to do things differently
in order to get a result that you want. We're not debating what needs to be. We're not debating what may need to be done. What I'm challenging you on, and anybody out there who says that, including Legs, who's my brother, that brother knows his basketball.
It's how you do it.
I'm saying, you going to be able to pull that off? I'll pull out my wallet right now. I bet you ain't going to be able to do that this year. Now, if it was 2-3 years down the road, maybe. But after literally averaging a triple-double last year, after doing it 4 times in his career, being a starter and a finisher his entire career, this season, you think you're going to get Russell Westbrook to come off the bench?
I think you're dismissing how much Russell Westbrook wants to win a championship.
I think he wants it desperately.
I think he wants it desperately. And I think Russell Westbrook is willing to do things differently, and that gives him a different result.
Back in August, the 9-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champ was held to just 8 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists in Tuesday's loss to the Warriors, matching his total number of games with single-digit points, rebounds, and assists from his previous 133 games combined. Marcus Spears is still here with us. Tim Legler now joining us.
My brother.
Good to see
So
you.
good to be here with y'all.
We go back a long, long ways. We used to do, before NBA Countdown was called that,
Yep.
it was called NBA Shoot Around.
Okay.
And me and this brother
That's
was
right.
on together. I miss you, bro.
Right
It's
from
good to
Times
see you, man.
Square. Good times.
Absolutely.
Yes,
no
I don't
doubt.
think I've seen you since Bristol. So
I
it's great to
know.
see you.
Good to see you, too.
It's good to see him.
I want to start with you.
Yeah.
How should the Lakers use Russ?
All right, so I'm going to start this by saying you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody in our industry that has been more effusive in their praise of Russell Westbrook than I have been throughout his career. I mean, I'm the guy that's constantly defending him all the time because he leaves skin on the court, and nothing do I admire more than that.
Right.
But in this situation, here's what I think, and I said something this morning, and it's just kind of top of my head said, he's not going to find his rhythm for the next 8 months. It might get so bad, he's going to lose so much rhythm. I said, he might forget how to dance, right? Because all rhythm is going to be gone as the third guy on an offense with 2 guys that dominate the ball to that extent. Okay. So is he still an elite level talent? Yes. Is he still an MVP caliber talent? Yes. In this role, he is going to struggle to such an extent. I think he's going to post, if he stays with the same minutes as they laid him out last night with those guys, lowest field goal percentage of his career is going to happen this year. Worst free throw percentage of his career is going to happen this year. And the worst three-point percentage, which he's never been a three-point shooter anyway, will happen this year. Because he's going to constantly be picking up the crumbs from what's left in this offense. So my suggestion, and he's not going to do this because I don't think he could wrap his head around it, if he came off the bench, okay, with the second unit on this team and played with a guy like Carmelo Anthony, he can thrive in that role, as can Melo, because look, Russ did that with a pure scorer to Kevin Durant, and Melo doesn't need Russ to do much for him. Melo can get his own, Russ can get his own, but he can then most of the game look like the Russell Westbrook and play like the Russell Westbrook. Now, if he made his mind and committed to doing that and wrap his head around that, Stephen A., first of all, landslide 6-man of the award winner. He might average a triple-double off the bench. First time in NBA history. Like he could do that if he put his mind to it. He won't, because that's a status thing. I think that's something he just would not be able to accept at this stage of his career. But as a result, he's going to have a lot of nights like he had last night. And he's going to be trying to figure out, how do I impact this game and stay true to myself, who I am as a player? Yeah, he's going to go run down 10 rebounds because of his energy. He'll commit to a certain extent defensively. He can make plays. There's a part of his game, man, it's just attack at the rim. This is what I do. I live here. if he's on the court with LeBron James is the point guard. Anthony Davis gets the rest of the offense through him. Where does that leave him? He's not a spot-up shooter. Where is he in the offense?
That's a fair.
He's going to look like he is last night. Come off the bench, but finish the game with those guys? Maybe that's his best role.
Before I give my spiel, let me ask you this question. When you talk about him coming off the bench, who's starting then?
I would you could either put in Rondo or you could put in Kendrick Nunn. I think either of the guys, because Rondo doesn't need the opportunities I'm talking about. He exists for one reason. Make dudes look good.
Okay.
He's not going to care about that. Or you put in a guy like a Kendrick Nunn who could play a little bit more off the ball and just be a scorer.
I wanted to go there. I wanted to go there with you because before I said what I had to say. First of all, you and I both know ain't no way in hell Russell Westbrook doing that. So let's just make sure. Let's just make sure we let the public know.
Right.
There is no way in hell that Russell Westbrook is coming off the bench this year. All right, think Allen Iverson in that regard. When he first departed from Philly and Detroit, he wanted to start, and Rip Hamilton was like, I ain't coming off no damn bench. Rip Hamilton refused to come off the bench. That's where that friction in Motown took place, because Rip Hamilton wasn't having that. And he was right, because he was a stout shooter, big-time shooter, not to mention the fact he was an NBA champion. Why the hell should he come off the bench, even if it was for the great Allen Iverson? Rip Hamilton wasn't having it, okay? So let's get that out the way. Russell Westbrook ain't doing that. That's number one. Number two, they can't coexist with each other, Rondo and Russell Westbrook on the floor together, because on the floor together for 7 minutes, they were minus 15. So we know how bad that was. When it was them two and Melo on the floor together, I think they were like a minus 13. I mean, it was pretty bad. So we understand that. Here's where it becomes a bit challenging, because Russell Westbrook, is not a good shooter. He can hit some jump shots occasionally, but he is not a good shooter. This is the part about his ego where it's almost justifiable, because I don't consider him selfish. I don't consider him a bad teammate. I think some of the things that people have said about him, I think is cruel. And I don't blame him for having an attitude when people are trying to attack his character, because that's not fair to him. And I will acknowledge that. He leaves it all on the court. He goes all out.
Agreed.
But here's the problem. When you struggle to shoot, particularly in the system that he's in now, where he has to be differential, get the ball out of his hands, fellas, inside of 2 or 3 seconds like he did last night. I'm going to say this over these national airwaves. You're going to get your ass kicked. Think about this. You got Steph Curry. You got Damian Lillard. You got Chris Paul. You got Luka. You understand? You got Jamal Murray and these boys. Understand that if you're Russell Westbrook, that ego is justified, because, wait a minute, these brothers are going to be putting up buckets now. So since you're accustomed to doing the same, to have to now be in a system where you're deferential, obviously to LeBron and AD, you're going to find yourself getting smoked by other people playing your position, because that's how the narrative is going to be. We could talk about trapping, people getting the ball out of their hands, other people getting the ball. But the bottom line is they're going to look at you, and they're going to look at the other team's point guards, and they're going to see them putting up buckets. You going to look at the box score and know you not. And as a result, it ain't going to fly. So somehow, some way, the Lakers have to figure this out, Swagoo. And if anybody could do it, it's LeBron. But damn, asking Russell Westbrook to come off the bench when he's been a starter and a finisher his entire career. And the first time you are in L.A., your hometown, coming off the bench, I got a better shot of walking on water.
I've seen you try that a couple times, too.
How about that? Go ahead, Swagoo. Go ahead.
Listen, I think it goes back to both of y'all points. And with legs, it's mentality for Russ. He going to have to lean into the latter part of his line when you start talking about assists and rebounds, as opposed to the point scoring, and allow that to be facilitated by LeBron. I could see Russ running point with Bron and Anthony Davis on the floor. I think Bron is mature enough to understand that I need to have Russ involved in this game, and maybe tell Russ, hey, your role changes, but you still in this lineup. That's what I thought this would be when it first was announced that he was going to LA. Look, it is crazy for anybody to think that Russell Westbrook didn't know he was going to have to sacrifice with what he was coming to. This is about running the offense through AD. This is about LeBron facilitating. and it's about Russ finding his way. But I'm thinking, I hear Legs say that, come off the bench and play with the twos. Yes, conventionally, yes. Because what did we say about the Lakers? When LeBron leaves the floor, there's a drop-off. And then Rondo had a phenomenal bubble. He had a phenomenal way of facilitating. He got AD involved. He understood the flow. So I already think you got your second guy coming off of the bench. It boils down to what both of you said. What is Russ willing to do? And if Russ is going to be selfish and say, I want to be the triple-double guy, we are all sitting here with a mute point because it ain't going to work. And we all know that it's not going to work. But if he wants to lean into assists and rebounds and allow himself to be a third option offensively, and LeBron says, hey, man, you facilitate. I'm a better off-the-ball player. I'm a better shooter. And then when we get in particular times and certain situations in games, you know LeBron is going to have the damn ball. And Russ may have to go to the bench and allow somebody else to come on. But I think that's how you maneuver through this season until they figure out this rapport.
Because I think to your point, look, he went there for a reason, and what he's going to say and what he probably felt internally was he wants one of these badly. That's why he ended up there, okay? Problem is this. You can say it, you can change your role, you can do certain things. We all are alone in the darkest recesses of our own minds. What's in his mind when he leaves the arena every night and he drives back to his crib? Because what you just said, I just chased Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, all these elite point guards around. I still got to guard those dudes, but they're not having to guard me and respect me and honor me in the same way they used to. So, yeah, okay, maybe at some point they get hot. I'm part of a winning team. I got a great chance to win a championship. Does that fulfill him personally as a player? So is he genuinely happy? It's one thing to say, I'll do anything it takes. It's another thing when you're alone in your own thoughts. Are you genuinely fulfilled that you have sacrificed that much of who you were as a player?
And is it a waste of your talent?
In fairness to you, to articulate, to eloquate, to really illuminate your point, rather, there's no evidence that that has been the case. He was in Oklahoma City. He was the man. He went to Houston. He made it very, very clear. He doesn't want to sit around and be a spectator to the great James Harden. He's great in his own right, and he wants to play the way that he wants to play. This is what he told Rockets management and ownership. Then you end up in Washington. Obviously, you wasn't asked to take a step back, even though it was Bradley Beal's team. They brought you there for a reason, and he was still allowed to excel. And now here you are in L.A. with LeBron and Anthony Davis. So, again, him asking him to step back, I'm not saying he won't do it. I'm saying
we gotta get
he never has.